Hey, and welcome to another installment of Catching Up with Chris, Jake, and Sam. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And just like last week, we talked to Corey, who works for Image Comics for their corporate headquarters. And this week, we're keeping the Image Comics trend going, and we're talking to Kel Symons, who's a writer on Reyn and the Mercenary Sea. One of his previous books for Image Comics is I Love Trouble, and so. Today, the 18th, sees the launch of the third issue of his Swords-and-Sorcery book, Reyn, available in comic stores or Comixology everywhere. And so I certainly suggest you pick it up because it's it's kind of the game-changing issue, or it's getting there. And so, we're lucky enough to have Mr. Symons kind of call in, and we were able to speak with him. So sit back and listen as we interview Kel Symons. How are you doing, Mr. Symons?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So today sees the release of Reyn #3.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I found about this issue is we're starting to learn a little more about the world. It's not as sword and sorcery as we thought.
Well, I'm I definitely have some science fiction leanings in my background, just the stuff that I like. So I didn't want to just do a straightforward swords and sorcery, swords and sandals kind of thing. But, I'm also a big believer in the slow burn when it comes to revealing stuff.
Sure.
So, I wanted to establish the world, and then we'd start to parcel things out as we got along and kind of play out a bit of a mystery, I think, for the readers to keep them thinking.
Yeah, in fact, there's a lot of intrigue. I would say more so than your other 2-inch books, I Love Trouble and the Mercenary Sea, because there's also the mystery of what happened to the Wardens, what happened to Reyn, and how does that tie to the evil salamander men?
Right.
And
I can't tell you just yet.
I wouldn't.
If that's what you're angling towards, I can't tell you.
I wouldn't dream of it. I wouldn't dream of it. But this has been the second series that you're working with Nathan Stockman. How did that all kind of come about?
Well, when Nathan and I worked together on I Love Trouble, we didn't start out together on that project. I was working with Mark Robinson.
Right.
Who I co-created the series with, but Mark, after the 5th issue, became unavailable, and Paul Little, who was our colorist on that, had recommended Nate to come in and basically back cleanup on the 6th and final issue of the book. So, he had the rather unenviable task of coming in at the end of a series that we knew was not going beyond the 6th issue, and also having to emulate or ape the same sort of style that Mark had originated with the series. So he wasn't really able to do his own thing with it necessarily.
Right, and with this time around, he's really getting the kind of the chance to breathe. And as a noted arachnophobe, seeing his design on that first fight, that really got my attention. And to your guys' credit, I kept going.
Right.
Afterwards.
Well, you weren't going to read us because of the spider?
I kind of walked out of the Return of the King when they walked in Shelob's lair because I'm just that much of a wuss.
Well, there are some spidery things coming up. I apologize in advance.
I will take some sort of
we'll have to read it together and get through it because I'm the same way.
Right.
As soon as it busted out of the ground,
hold my hand, Jake. Hold my hand.
We'll see if we can get a censored version for Sam that where he's just fighting air.
Yeah, the Spielberg E.T. re-release version.
Yeah, they got the walkie-talkies now instead of the guns.
Now, I had mentioned or noted in seen in interviews that Reyn, he's kind of even though he's kind of built on the Aragorn mold, he's kind of got this man with no name vibe to him, or that's how.
Yeah, I mean that's what I didn't want him to be the White Knight. I didn't want him to be the hero. I mean, he can do heroic things, but it's not really, just because he may be one of these fabled wardens doesn't mean that he is assuming that mantle with any sort of acceptance or excitement.
Sure. It's something I had noticed with both the main character of I Love Trouble and the Mercenary Sea, this kind of like altruism, or that they're not entirely altruistic. There's something going there, even though their heart's in the right place. What was really your inspiration in creating Reyn?
I mean, look, the Man with No Name was definitely one of the main inspirations. In fact, there's definitely a Western thread throughout the series. aside from the giant spider in the opening sequence, that could be like Shane. I mean, it looks like a Western frontier farm and family, and that was kind of what we were going for. I like the themes of traditional Westerns where the hero may end up doing the right thing, but it's not necessarily the thing he wanted to do. He didn't want to necessarily strap on that six shooter and go up against the bad guys, but he was forced to do it by circumstance.
Right. The problem almost kind of falls in his lap when he's in that tavern. It's like a saloon fight that goes out of control.
Right. Well, with Reyn, I think you've also got the added element of, he's got this Jiminy Cricket conscience character in Aurora, this vision and voices in his head that are guiding him, very Joan of Arc-like, I think.
Right. Now, in terms of character motivation, certainly we know that the wardens were lost and that sort of thing. But is he kind of more like the man with no name? Did he just happen to be drifting, or do we get a sense of what he was doing?
We haven't gotten into it yet, and we probably will in the sort of back half of the first 10 issues. But he's definitely a reluctant hero. He's drawn to the calling, but because he has no choice. He hears these voices, and his hope is that if he follows them long enough, far enough, if he accomplishes what missions he's being set upon, that they'll eventually leave him alone, and he can, go off and enjoy a beer and a wench in the tavern.
Yeah. It's the goal for really every hardworking man. Now, Jake and I are really big fans of the Mercenary Sea.
Absolutely.
Jake in particular is a huge fan of the pulp stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake, did you have?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was reading this. Hello. I was reading this book, and again, being a big pulp guy, I was like, this. I would love to see you take on, the Phantom or something along these lines. I got a big feel of like, were you a fan of the pulp characters or those serials that you grew up on?
I think yes and no. I mean, my experience with comics is rather limited. I'm more a movies and television guy. So a lot of my inspirations are drawn from those,
sure, as
opposed to comics, and I'm sure. I get into conversations with a number of other comic book creators, and I'm completely lost. I don't have the width and breadth of the background that they have. But, I do love, I wouldn't say necessarily pulpy, but just, great action adventure. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark is obviously an influence on that, as is sort of adventure movies of the 30s and 40s. I mean, I've mentioned it before. I don't mind mentioning again that Howard Hawks movies were a big part of what we were trying to do with, or at least what I was trying to do with the Mercenary Sea. I mean, there's a strong influence of movies like To Have and Have Not and Only Angels Have Wings in that. You have these sort of characters who are thrown together by circumstance, living on the frontier, whether it's the South American jungles or the Antarctic, and forced to contend with something.
When you write the lead for the Mercenary Sea, do you kind of hear Bogart's voice when you're writing?
I think I actually did mention to Matthew that I saw him as sort of a Bogart. I think I said he had Cary Grant's face, but Bogart's personality.
Sure, like Cary Grant, like in Gunga Din, with Bogart and Treasure of the Sierra Madre, almost like he's been around the world.
Mm-hmm.
What I really enjoy about the book is whenever we see these kind of World War II intrigue stories like Casablanca, or even like Man on a Mission stories like Where Eagles Dare, we don't really see the Japanese like the Pacific Front.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was definitely trying to do something different and bring something, a new facet to that kind of story. And also the South Pacific is just a great sort of, not necessarily unexplored, but I mean, at that time, yes, there were lost islands and lots of sort of jungle intrigue and amazing lost cultures. There's just a lot of great stuff that was happening there. And the idea of World War II not quite ramping up yet, and we're just at the precipice of World War II, was also kind of interesting for me.
Yeah, it's a shame that the South Pacific's involvement in World War II, representation is really only the musical South Pacific.
No. I mean, you've got They Were Expendable.
Yeah.
You've got, believe me, I watched a lot of World War II action movies.
Run Silent, Run Deep.
Run Silent, Run Deep. Destination Tokyo. There's a lot of great stories that took place there.
I just like to reference South Pacific because it's like my least favorite musical ever made.
I'm not a big
I actually
Oklahoma
don't think
guy.
I've seen it.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
All right.
I could never get behind Oklahoma. That was always my least favorite. Our friend Jed's dead. What the hell is that? Anyway.
Yeah.
So it's been 3 months since the last issue of the Mercenary Sea. When can we expect a return?
I can't give you a specific date because Matthew is busy drawing. I can tell you. I mean, if you check out our Facebook page, just today I posted a new picture.
Right.
First piece of art from issue 9. So it's coming.
As long as it's coming. That's nice.
Yeah.
I basically told Matthew that we wouldn't solicit until he had a couple of issues in the can, and we're not there yet. So we're hoping by the end of the year that we'll actually have all 3 issues coming out, and then we can wrap up the second volume with issues 7 through 11.
Right. So it's just a 3-issue arc for the upcoming story.
You know what? It's really not.
Okay.
It's actually an 8-issue arc that I have in mind, but we're only going to include the first 3 issues of the beginning of this arc, which will basically tell the backstory or part of the backstory of how the crew came together. And then that is going to be juxtaposed with a contemporary adventure that the guys are going to go on that ties into why it is they left the employ of the Chinese Navy.
Right. Kind of this dual narrative thing going.
Well, it'll be the story of Admiral Shatang, who's the guy, if you remember from like the first couple of issues, that Jack was on the run from.
Yeah. Very much kind of like the Nazi and Raiders, kind of always pursuing Indy, definitely. Mm-hmm. Now to kind of broaden the conversation a bit. So what I was very struck by, all of your work is very, to your credit, very different, very varied. You've got I Love Trouble, which is about this grifter in New Orleans that learns how to teleport. You've got the pulp World War II intrigue of the Mercenary Sea. You've got the swords and sorcery. Certainly, I mean, it bears comparison with, again, Tolkien and Conan the Barbarian. Though, like I said, read issue 3, guys, currently on stands. There's something bigger going on there, but they're all, even that said, they're all very different. What are some of your influences with each of those 3?
Oh, I mean, there's so many. I'm a genre fan. I like action, adventure, thrillers, science fiction, horror, and fantasy. That's sort of my wheelhouse. So, I mean, I think the influences are probably far too many to name, but since we're talking about Reyn, I mean, Conan is a big influence. In fact, that was probably the primary reason I wanted to do something in the swords and sorcery realm.
Sure.
The idea of a wandering swordsman. I had actually not read the Conan stories until the last maybe 4 or 5 years. For some reason, they just sort of escaped my attention. I mean, I certainly knew who Conan was and saw the Schwarzenegger movie in the 80s. Which
even the second one?
The second one's not that great, and I saw, unfortunately, the reboot, which, by the way, made the John Milius Conan look like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
by
pretty
comparison,
bad.
it was pretty bad. But I was at once enthralled by the writing itself and the story, but I was really kind of amazed at how timeless the writing was. That this was written in the pulpy 30s, around the same time that Tolkien had written The Hobbit, and it seemed so ahead of its time. So anyway, I was entranced by that and wanted to write something along those lines. But I can also say a huge influence is growing up playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
There's a lot of myth and mythology and magic that I'm adding into the story that absolutely comes from that, and the creatures and the monsters and giant spiders and the ant-lion creatures in the second issue. Yeah.
One of the vibes I got from Reyn that that I really enjoyed, and in all the work that I've read of yours so far, a lot of the way the action sequences are paced and laid out. With Reyn in particular, I felt a lot of, speaking of like action adventure movies of the 30s. The beginning of issue 2 felt a lot like Adventures of Robin Hood, where they're all fighting, and granted he takes the antlers off the wall, and that reminded me of the scene where you see Errol Flynn pop in with the deer on his back, and he's like whacking dudes in the face with it, and flying back in the chair, and you get the arrows hitting the chairs, and just I got that vibe a lot. And when you do an action sequence in particular for Reyn or Mercenary Sea, is that something that you kind of, when you're working with the artist, you kind of say, hey, I want to get to this point, or do you really sit down with him and say?
I script pretty much everything. I mean, I write for film and TV as well, so I write what I guess are considered complete scripts in the
not Marvel style
comics. So I do script everything, but all the artists have a free hand to do whatever they want and come up with something better if they can. And oftentimes Matthew and Nate have just gone off and impressed me with something I hadn't considered. So it just depends on what issue it is and what they come up with. I can tell you, Nate is drawing issue 6 right now, and he came up with some pretty cool action sequences for the end of that one.
Very cool.
That's going to be a great battle sequence. So anyway,
awesome. Yeah, I did want to say that reading through Reyn, like one of my favorite parts so far has just been how cool the action looks. It's just very exciting fight scenes, and real extensive, and it's not all just like real tight, like all you see is a punch, but you like see the whole thing.
Yeah, I like that. Nate really brings a lot of that to the he has a very cinematic eye. I think when crafting or choreographing an action sequence. So again, he's really just has a free hand to kind of do what he wants and put the camera, quote unquote, wherever he feels it's appropriate. And it comes off the page. I think it makes it interesting, a little bit more than just a 2-dimensional experience.
Yeah.
Now, would you have any, interest writing licensed characters, or have you been really content?
Nobody has any interest in me writing them, apparently. No, I'm just saying. My experience in comics, once again, has been very limited and limited solely to Image, simply because I know Eric Stevenson. That's how I got into the business in the first place. He approached me with the idea that became I Love Trouble. And from there, I was like, oh, well, this is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying this. I'm getting to tell the kinds of stories that I would never write as a spec in Hollywood. So this is an opportunity to see those adventures get produced, in a sense.
Yeah, and no budget on a comic book, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, or at least in terms of visual effects.
Right.
So this is something we tend to ask all our guests. What are you currently geeking out over now? Music, movies, TV?
Boy, I'm going to have to think about that for just a second. I mean, I just this morning put down the Victory, I think it was, the recent Astro City compilation.
Right.
Which I'm a fan of Astro City. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
So I've sort of given up on following the single issues and just started purchasing the collection. So that was the latest one that I read.
More economical, sure.
Yeah. Music. I mean, a very eclectic taste in music. I just heard the new Foo Fighter song, Something from Nothing, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Great album.
And El King's X's and O's, which I thought was pretty good too. Yeah, I mean, I'm all over the map. I'm enjoying the hell out of season 6, or sorry, I guess it's season 6. Maybe it's season 5. Whatever it is, it's the final season of Justified.
Justified's fantastic.
Yeah. Elmore Leonard. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Great stuff. Well, to kind of close this out, what can we expect next in Reyn?
Quite a bit, I think. I think the next 2 issues, I mean, if you had
Spiders.
some questions, may have a spider.
More spiders. Just keep bringing them. Can we just turn Reyn into a spider? just for Sam's sake.
How do you feel about water serpents?
I can do water serpents. Honestly, I'm unlike Indiana Jones. Like, I'm like Indiana Jones is about snakes. That's me and spiders.
Oh yeah, Raiders. I with this when he turned Senor, and he turns around with the tarantulas on his back.
Oh, man.
When I was a child, I turned it off as a kid and swore never to watch it again because it was too much. To
I always
handle.
look away.
Yeah.
I'm 28 years old.
Yeah,
I always
yeah.
look away.
It's fine. That's the same way that I am with Large Marge in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
And the woman in Superman 3 that gets pulled into the.
God.
Oh man, but yeah. So
quite a bit I think is going to change. The landscape is definitely becoming more formalized and clarified. So issues 4 and 5, some big changes, some big reveals, and hopefully we'll answer some questions from some people. But the way I like to do things, it will definitely leave a lot more questions than it does answers, unfortunately.
we've been digging the questions so far.
Yeah, we love the slow burn stuff. I'm always a
good.
fan of that. So
Good.
yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Kel.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
See you later.
See you.
Bye.
So good talking to Kel Symons. It's been a great little opportunity we've had to speak with him, and speaking with Corey last week. Again, Reyn #3 out in comic stores everywhere today. Available on Comixology if you want to just get it digitally. The first 2 issues of Reyn also in comic stores, also in Comixology. You can get the first trade or the first volume of the Mercenary Sea. As of the time we're recording this, the first issue is free for download on Comixology, and of course there's 2 more issues that aren't in the trade that have since been released. And his first book with Image, I Love Trouble, available again comic stores everywhere and on Comixology. Great little book. Pick it up. All good stuff. And I mean, I love Reyn, and honest to God, would you say the Mercenary Sea, Jake, is like one of your favorites?
Yeah, I really loved it, and as you guys heard in the interview we did with him, I was like, dude, let's get you writing some pulp heroes, man. I mean, he already is basically with the Mercenary Sea, but I just couldn't help but thinking like, man, this guy could write a killer Phantom book.
Or Doc Savage.
Doc Savage, Lone Ranger, Green Hornet, just something around that, and he just has that voice and talent for writing that period really well.
Yeah, and like he kind of alluded, he really is out in L.A. as a filmmaker. He's got I believe he's worked with Bob Newhart and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So well done.
Yeah, he's a great guy to talk to.
Yeah, fantastic. And thank you, Image Comics, for that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, in terms of other things that have been going on in the big pop culture sphere, Jake, I know that you've seen a couple things, including the divisive Chappie.
Chappie. Yeah, I mean, I've been, anyone listening to any of these podcasts since like the release of the first trailer, while it wasn't like Mad Max Fury Road freak out, it was something where when the first trailer dropped, I was really excited for it. And it only grew with each trailer, each spot that came out afterwards, for the movie. Only problem is the Thursday before the release, the general public release of Chappie, it got eviscerated by critics. And I feel like after a while they were just ganging up on it, which I feel is like really unfair.
Kind of like John Carter a couple years ago.
Yeah,
And I feel like the bulk of the negative stuff about Chappie was really like focused directly at like Die Antwoord, specifically Ninja.
And you know what? I mean, and that's justified because for me it wasn't. My big fear was that every time they were on screen, I was going to hate the movie, which is a problem because they're in the movie a lot. They're the main characters, along with Chappie, of course. But luckily, that wasn't the case entirely. Ninja's a little rough, a little over the top. I can't remember the name of the girl.
Well, apparently Neil Blomkamp felt the same way.
Yeah, I mean, they supposedly Ninja did not act very, very well on the set, and it kind of ruined their relationship. Which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. Anyway, I can't remember the female's name, but I thought actually she was pretty good. She was pretty good in the movie. She was not a big problem. But anyway, going back to I remember seeing all these Twitter responses about how awful Chappie was. And I was getting really bummed for a couple of reasons. One, I felt like the movie was already it had already lost any momentum because we live in an era now where a lot of people will go online and look at movie reviews or Rotten Tomatoes sites or whatever and make up their mind before they even see the movie themselves. Now, if you really don't want to see the movie, that's fine. But remember, like, you're allowed to have an opinion. Like, if you want to go see a movie, and stick up for a movie. If you like a movie and it gets slaughtered on Rotten Tomatoes or by other people, stick up for it,
How many times has Chris kind of stuck up for Wild Wild West?
That's true.
Yeah, and I will continue to.
Yeah. How many times have we stuck up for John Carter?
Oh yeah, yeah. And
And how many times has Sam stuck up for Rocky 3?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Whoa.
Rocky 3 is fantastic.
Wait, are you telling me there's people that don't like Rocky 3?
Yeah, Rocky 5 would be one thing.
Oh God. Ugh.
But that one's tough.
I'm getting flashbacks.
Yeah, I've only seen the movie once all the way through.
And you're like, your favorite movie's Rocky.
Yeah, my favorite movie of all time is the first Rocky movie. Chappie is one of those movies, that I will gladly and proudly be in its corner, to make a boxing reference, for Chappie. I enjoyed it. The ironic thing is, I think, even though I was super bummed by the kind of like insanely harsh reviews for Chappie,
It almost felt like the critics took it personally.
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, some critics said something. It was like the most miserable experience she's had in the theater, and I was like, "Did she not see Turtles last year?" Like, I don't know. And this movie is.
Now you're giving me. I'm starting to get a headache.
Yeah,
again.
sorry. Leaps and bounds above Ninja Turtles. So anyway, I went into the movie, and like I said, ironically, some of those reviews might have actually tempered and kind of tamed it a bit. So I went in kind of freaked out. Like, I've been looking for this movie since the first trailer dropped, which was months and months ago, and I'm really excited. I've liked most of the things I've seen Sharlto Copley in, and I like motion capture performances a lot. I'm excited that that's becoming a bigger thing, especially with the advent of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. How much I love that movie. And anyway, so I was excited to see it, and luckily I really enjoyed it. It's very silly at times. I can understand some of the head scratching moments, but overall,
is Chappie a robotic Jar Jar Binks?
No, absolutely not. Because you like Chappie and you root for Chappie and you feel something for Chappie.
How is Hugh Jackman in a mullet?
He's Hugh Jackman in a mullet. It's weird because
the
it's
best Hugh Jackman.
Spoiler, but he's a villain in it. Now, I don't know if it's probably fairly obvious.
It's pretty clear.
I know, but we live in a spoiler central world where people, you're very, very picky about things. So just throw that out there. Anyway, he's the villain, which is the first time we've ever seen that in a Hugh Jackman movie, and it's weird. He's not in it very much. He's just becomes kind of a stock villain towards the end.
Kind of like Sharlto Copley in Elysium.
Yeah, which I've actually never seen that one. Speaking of being a fan of his, I actually haven't seen it. But
I did. I saw it, worried that it was going to be a little overly heavy-handed on the social commentary, but it actually surprisingly did a great job of balancing that and the action out, and I ended up thoroughly enjoying it. It was a lot of fun.
But yeah, I got to check that one out definitely. But Chappie was very entertaining. Had a lot of heart. The movie has a lot of heart, and it has similar themes to kind of his other films, like the District 9s, and I guess like you were saying with Elysium. There's straight up a line where obviously it's about consciousness and being alive and what it means, and Chappie is talking about why would the creator make me if I was just going to die, kind of thing, and it's very obvious what they're alluding to, different things. And the idea of consciousness, is that something you can program? Is it something you can put in a computer? Is it something you can transfer from body to body? The end of the movie, I think, is where we might have really lost some people, because it's a bit of a stretch. But I really enjoyed Sharlto's motion capture performance, because you basically are seeing a accelerated lifespan of an individual. You see him, as this kind of almost newborn baby, scared of everything, and he's brought up in this gangster world where he's treated horribly, and they're just using him to be basically a bodyguard for a big the big score, the big hit.
So the Deont word are shitty parents.
Yeah, well, the mother, the woman's she becomes a comforting mother for him, and he really embraces her and really cares for her. And then Ninja does everything he can to make Chappie hate him, because he keeps lying to him over and over again, just using him. And it's not until towards the end where he kind of is I've been an asshole to this robot, this person, almost, because he's starting to have a actual consciousness, and no one ever expected that to happen. And of course, I'm a sucker for He-Man shit, and the first thing he does the next morning, he turns on the TV and he watches He-Man, and there's that shot in the trailer, and I was praying, because I'm such a sucker for movies, that I would have cried like a little fucking child if they would have brought back some kind of like I have the power moment in the end, even though it would have been so cheesy. I would have loved it, but unfortunately,
I have the consciousness.
I am conscious
by the power of Grayskull.
Yeah.
And then stomps on Hugh Jackman's head and his brains fly everywhere.
It's a rated R movie because there's a lot of like they cuss a lot in it. A dude in the end gets ripped in half and like just splattered everywhere because there's
Ultimate Hulk versus Wolverine style.
Yeah. I remember in District 9, because I'm tracking District 9, I'm watching District 9, I'm like, okay, this isn't, that violent. It's because there really isn't action until about 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
And then a man gets like hit by a laser and straight up like fucking explodes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's going to be, this movie kicks ass.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's like that, huh?
Because you see like plenty of like police versus robber villain moments where like the people are getting shot and stuff. But yeah,
it's in Johannesburg as well, right?
Yeah. There's like and a guy gets like ripped in half, and then a great thing too is like Chappie misunderstands the word motherfucker, and he thinks it's fuck mother, and so like that's his cuss word throughout the movie. And there's a great scene where like he comes to save the day, and he has this like giant fucking like gun that basically fires like mini like rocket propelled like bullets. It's this high tech thing, and when it hits something, it causes this mini explosion. And Hans Zimmer does the score, and it's fantastic. It's very reminiscent of Blade Runner for me, like very minimalistic kind of synths, and then it'll have big strings, swelling moments. And, for everything, the movie, any flaws, whatever, towards the end when, like, Chappie comes, like, almost running out in slow-mo, and it's in the trailer where he's, like, jumping over a car, and he comes across this giant robot, and he goes, fuck mother, and he like shoots the gun. He's just like shooting over and over in him.
He's taking out the ED-209.
Yeah, and has like a grenade wrapped in a knife, so he can stick it in the thing. And
I was about to say, wait a minute, why would
a knife stuck on a grenade so he can stick the grenade into somebody and run away and it explodes. But again, you see this great performance of going from child to kind of this like person who understands things and becomes a smart conscious almost human figure.
After having seen Chappie, would you trust the future of the Alien franchise in Neil Blomkamp's hands?
Yes. Here's the thing that I've seen is that the unanimous thing about him with most of the general public is concept art and trailers. Like people lose their shit. And again, District 9 was like nominated for Best Picture. It was like, almost like this little indie sci-fi movie that could. And it's still fantastic. I've rewatched it, fairly recently, a couple months ago, and it still holds up. It's still really, really good. But I think people are really, and again, because, Chappie isn't doing well with critics, and it seems like general audiences, because when I saw it, it was a ghost town, and it was in a big theater, which is kind of a bummer. But
did you see it during the weekend? Or
I saw it on, I saw it on a Tuesday, but it was like, and it made a
like
good
$5 Tuesday.
It wasn't like it bombed at the box office. I think it was #1 when it came out, which is good. Because I think people should see it and enjoy it, and hopefully it's a movie that finds its place on Blu-ray, which I know that like producers don't want to hear. They're like, well, I don't want to wait till that. They want to have it make its money in the theater.
The Dread conundrum.
Yeah. Or almost John Carter, to a bigger,
yeah, but John Carter, unfortunately, I don't think found its audience on.
Well, no,
Blu-ray.
it was selling out like crazy when it came out on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah.
But that's a huge loss, and Disney kind of just pulled the plug after the first week on
very
that one.
quickly.
They were like, let's count our losses, and it's like, well, you're gonna be counting your losses for a million times over.
Yeah,
a couple 100 million times over. But I enjoyed Chappie, and I hope people give it a chance. If you generally hate Chappie, that's totally fine. I'm not saying you have to love Chappie, but just remember to like, if you're on the fence, go out and see the movie yourself and come up with your own opinion. If you like it or not. That's for me. That's the part of the fun of going to see the movies. Part of the fun when we go see movies. We go after like to IHOP afterwards or something, and we all have coffee and we just talk about the movie.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't done that since like Sin City.
No,
Birdman.
No, wait, was it? I think it was. I think you're right. It was Birdman.
Yeah, that was the last time we had a debrief after a movie.
Mm-hmm. But I enjoyed Chappie, and it's still extremely early for movies. I still say my favorite movie I've seen this year is Kingsman, but
I would go that. Granted, the only new movie I've seen this year is Kingsman. Yeah,
Kingsman and Chappie.
Yeah,
but
because I saw Selma and American Sniper, but those are technically 2014.
Technically, yeah, and I finally saw. Whiplash too. You know the Whiplash soundtrack is following us on Twitter.
Is it? Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Well, it's good.
Yeah,
it's because I remember that just like a little behind.
I know why. Yeah, and I know now too why.
A little behind the scenes, I was like, man, listening to the on because sometimes I run the Twitter little again behind the scenes thing, and I was like, man, listening to the Whiplash soundtrack while I work is like the most intense thing ever.
Yeah, just imagining J.K. Simmons yelling at me. But yeah, so
and you also saw the Powers premiere.
first episode of Powers. Yeah, I
Speaking of Charles Copley.
yeah, man, Charlton Copley. I remember I just tweeted to him. I was like, Charto rules. Hashtag Chappie, hashtag Powers. Two completely different performances. 100%. And I had very limited knowledge of the book. I had never read it before, any of the series. I knew about it working at a comic shop, and I've since read a couple of the first issues and enjoyed it. You know, something I want to keep reading. But the first issue the first episode is free on YouTube
And the Sony website, I believe.
and the Sony website. Yeah, so I was like, you know what, let's check it out. You know, if you don't know it by now, I like Charlton Copley, and I enjoy the hell out of it. I mean, it's very low budget, which it brings a charm to it, and it's really interesting. You know, it's not just. I think a lot of people who don't know what it's about think it's just this cop show that deals with superheroes, but you know, the character Walker has a very distinctive past and has this like almost kind of like addictive, like he's lost his powers and he wants them back so bad. I mean, could you imagine having all these powers, not having them anymore?
I feel like that isn't as pronounced in the book.
Yeah, I mean, it's very pronounced in the first episode at least. You know, so much so that like, you know, spoiler, he does something very dangerous to try to regain them. You know, it almost costs him and someone else his life, which was I was tracking the whole episode and really liked it, but there's a moment towards the end with him where he does something that almost has him and
It's really reckless.
yeah, very reckless. That for me, that boom, I was in. Like that was a great moment. That really made me enough to want to go through the crazy process of getting the whole network, PlayStation, blah blah blah, to watch the next couple episodes.
Think you'll be buying a PlayStation 4?
No, because like I'll probably still be living with you, and you'll have the PlayStation 4.
Truth.
I'll buy the Xbox One. But yeah, it's really fun. I mean, I know, Sam, you said you had read at least the first volume, right, of the Powers
Who
comic.
Killed Retro Girl.
Did you enjoy it, or is that something where
It's okay.
it's Brian Michael Bendis, for those of you who don't know? Who
It's probably my favorite creator-owned work by Bendis.
okay,
He also, what other creator-owned stuff have I read by him? Takio, Scarlet,
yeah.
United States Murder Incorporated, and Goldfish. And of all those, I would say Powers is my favorite.
Powers, yeah.
And of course, it's the one that's run the longest.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, for like years. And it
Yeah,
used to be an
long,
Image
long
Comics title. And then he brought the rights over to Icon, which is Marvel's creator-owned imprint.
but yeah. So Powers, check it out. Like I said, the first episode's free. I wish it was like a Netflix thing, you know, just a lot easier to kind of get around. I hope that doesn't screw it up, because I would like to see where it goes. They show like at the end of the first episode, like this season on Powers, and some fucking,
Like a big teaser thing.
yeah, some fucking crazy shit happens, man. Like, again, I'm like 2 or 3 issues into the series, but like, man, it gets dark and bloody and psycho. I mean, like it looks like totally not what I was thinking of
Or is
whatsoever.
is it like kind of, it's not like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Carter, where it's like PG-13 level. It's like straight up.
Well, like, you know, they're dropping the F-bomb left and right in the first episode, and there's just like in the teaser for the rest of the season, there's a shot of like a room and just blood spraying everywhere and like body parts, and I was like, Jesus Christ,
It's
man.
like Nightmare with Johnny Depp.
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. The first episode's not super graphic. There's a scene where like a guy can teleport, and he like puts his hand around a guy's throat and teleports just his head, and like blood spraying everywhere, and it's like super cheesy, but like, you know, like you know, there's a reason this isn't on like Fox, for example, because it's fucking crazy. But yeah, it's quite enjoyable, and like I said, check out the first episode. It costs you nothing to go, and it's like, you know, about 50 some minutes long, and I found it super enjoyable. Like, it's one of those shows that I definitely want to check out more of, and it was a very interesting performance to see after seeing Chappie, because it couldn't be more different than Chappie.
Speaking of online TV shows, after we've recorded this, but prior to us posting it, the first episode of the newest season of Community will be available on Yahoo. It's being posted St. Patrick's Day, which, if you're listening to this the day that it drops, was yesterday.
Recover from your hangovers.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope you're recovering well. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Have you guys ever gotten really tanked on a St. Patrick's Day?
No.
Yes.
In fact, this year was the first year that I've ever been out at a bar on St. Patrick's Day.
They're not by choice.
No, because I'm working at a bar. So even though I'm going to finally be at a bar for St. Patrick's Day, I can't drink.
At an Irish pub, no less.
Yeah.
So even more
God.
crowded and ridiculous. And
Yeah. Speaking to you from the past now, I'm not terribly looking forward to it.
let's hope that you're recovering from your St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Your sister and I are talking about going to get manis and petties to massage the pain out of our feet.
Okay. Get the that pedicure with like the fish like eating your toes.
Yeah, and then the little Asian lady just rubbing the knots out.
Yeah.
Also
Sweet.
another title of a porn that I've been in.
Ah, okay. Just go over to Spa World in Centerville. So, would you care to share your St. Patrick's Day story?
I'm trying to think of like the shortest way to go about it, except the fact that like I
got
know
drunk, threw up. The end.
well, I don't need to ever drink again on St. Patty's Day. Basically, it started
puking green for days.
It started a 5-long-day binge of. I had texted my friend because I was at Roanoke College, and I said, she had sent me this text like, "Hey, St. Patty's Day is coming up. Ready for a week long of drinking? Ha ha ha!" And I was like, "Yes, whatever." And then it turned into a week long of drinking. She sent me a text basically. She was still in class, wasted, in front of her entire class, and she was so drunk she couldn't she was basically falling asleep in class, and the class was over and she was just obliterated. And we had I just got out of class, like class was starting. We were having, we were going to meet other people at the bar, so she went and like slept it off and came back, and then we had, I think it wasn't Watchmen, it was some movie. Oh, Sweeney Todd I think was out. And I was like,
so this is like St. Patrick's Day 2009?
Yeah. And I remember, so we kind of regroup and we go to the bar. We have a good time, a lot of friends. And, they didn't, the bar there, they paid for our tab, which is super nice. And
how'd you swing that?
I don't know. I to this day, I have no idea. I went up and I was like, Bozic. And they're like, don't worry about it. And I was like, but I got a lot of drink, just out of my mind. They're like, don't worry about it. And I was like, thank you. And I remember telling everyone how great Sweeney Todd was, and I was like, "We all gotta go see Sweeney Todd, man."
The demon barber of Fleer Street.
Yeah, and nobody was nobody saw Sweeney Todd with me. They were not. I don't think even I saw Sweeney Todd after that. I just really liked it, but it was a lot of fun. It was have fun in college, kids, but don't be stupid.
Drink responsibly.
Yes.
We were from our mistakes.
Yeah, we were all within walking distance. Nobody had to drive. It was very safe. We felt it the next day. But yeah, it was one of those things where I had my fun at St. Patty's Day. I have no intention of drinking or going to the bar or doing anything on St. Patty's Day.
Get Uber. A lot of times they'll have special deals on big high holy days of drinking.
Yeah, New Year's. I remember they had they were out in force.
Free cabs constantly. I don't think every single one was free, but yeah, there was
select few.
Very easy to get a free cab ride on New Year's, and I imagine they probably have the same deal for St. Patty's.
So my St. Patrick's Day 2009 over at CNU, where I went to college.
Yeah.
I kept it isolated to one day.
Okay.
Amateur.
Having said that, so I walk into my local bar, which is at the time was 3 floors below the apartment that I lived.
That's very How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah. It was great. Very kind of McLaren's, yeah. And so much of my life is based. I'm a faculty member now at the university I work at, so I'm totally Ted Mosby. Which means,
but don't say you're Ted Mosby, because Ted Mosby is the fucking worst. Ted Mosby is one of the I can't stand. I love How I Met Your Mother.
Ted Mosby is the worst.com.
But I hate Ted Mosby.
So I'm Ted Mosby.
No,
that's fair. We do all hate you.
Yeah. So I'm at this bar, and I walk in. It's like, oh, okay. So it's only $1 for a glass of Guinness during this drink special, and it's only car bombs are $5. Guinnesses are Guinnesses aren't $1. That would be too ridiculous. Car bombs are $5. Guinnesses are cheap as hell. Probably, I would assume less than $5 because it doesn't come with a shot. To take advantage of this, when you drink a car bomb, you have to drink it fast.
Yes.
Because it curdles.
Yes.
For those of you who aren't in the know, an Irish car bomb, which, by the way, based on my experiences in Ireland, you should probably not order as an Irish car bomb based on, the historical context of car bombs in Ireland, is a glass of Guinness and a shot of Jameson, or a shot of Bailey's. dropped into it. Use sometimes a little Jameson on the top to kind of like make it more Irish, I guess. Triple it up. So you have to drink it fast.
Uh-huh.
We were good friends with a bartender who looked like a coked-out, black-haired Willem Dafoe. So much so that we called him Willem Dafoe.
I mean, that's pretty much just Willem Dafoe in the 80s.
Yeah. Without
Don't tell Harry.
Yeah. So he was very regular with keeping up with our drinks. Again, you have to drink a car bomb fast. I had 5 within 30 minutes. Don't drink 5 car bombs within 30 minutes.
Yeah. And I've gotten drunk with Sam. I mean, I'm a nut job. Sam's a nut job when it comes to getting drunk.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, yeah,
Thing is, what I failed to in my youth, and sometimes still now, what I failed to take into account, alcohol, when you drink it, you don't get drunk right away.
Oh yeah.
It takes like maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes for it to kick in.
That's the death wish, because you're doing that thing where you're like, I don't feel anything.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that went down really easy.
Bring it on. But in deep inside, your body's like, oh, we're gonna bring it on, and you're gonna get the shit kicked out of you. This is gonna be the first fight in Rocky 3 where your body's Clubber Lang, and you're Stallone.
Yeah. I'm gonna bust you up.
Yeah.
Go for
You
it.
know, I was thinking about that. I have been thinking about Rocky 3 randomly a lot.
That's good. It's
And,
my favorite Rocky movie.
How fucking tragic is it when...
That's his favorite Rocky.
No.
Well, yes.
It's, honestly, outside, after one, although it wouldn't be like my second favorite, it is clearly the second best. I mean, in terms of like...
of all the sequels.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and you have to keep in mind, from an artistic standpoint, like kind of like with me and like Indiana Jones, from a technical standpoint, Raiders of the Lost Ark is far and away the best Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
But for me, the most entertaining movie that I connect with out of those 4, yes, I know we're counting Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, sorry.
Yeah.
Of those 4,
Someone's favorite Indiana Jones movie
is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's better than Temple of Doom. And I'm like, hey, fuck yourself.
Yeah, it's not, though.
Yeah. Nice try. Thanks for playing. Last Crusade. Always found it was more entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would agree, Chris?
Yes, I would.
Just like you would say that Secret of the Ooze is your favorite, and my favorite from an entertainment standpoint, Turtles movie, though from a technical standpoint, I would say the first one.
Yeah, I accept the argument that the first one is the best, but personally I find the second one to be the most entertaining.
And you're that way about Bill and Ted and Wayne's World as well.
Yes.
The thing
and mostly to piss off Josh, imaginary friend Josh, Ghostbusters.
Yeah. He might be cropping up soon, like in 7 days' time. You'll see.
The thing about is like, who cares about best? You know what I mean? It really just comes down to favorites,
right?
And so
from a technical standpoint, Rocky and Rocky Balboa are far away the 2 best. From an artistic standpoint, the 2 best Rocky films. But from an entertainment standpoint, fucking Rocky 3 has got like montage after montage. The first montage is set to Eye of the Tiger. Like, he fights Hulk Hogan. He fights Mr. T twice. He gets to run on the beach and hug Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
It's so...
Who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah. He's like greased up in like that that
he's
LA
like
gym.
the weird hug, when they
are
hugging.
He has that clap,
yeah, the clap, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, how fucking tragic is it when like he goes in and gets the ever-loving fuck beat out of him by Clubber Lang in the first fight. And he's like, both eyes are like swollen shut. He's got the hood over back. He's humiliated. And Mick's like dying in the locker room. And he goes in and he just like tells Mick he won.
Yeah, if he wasn't... Now, here's a question. If he wasn't distracted by... Because Mickey Goldmill, like Burgess Meredith, has his fatal heart attack right before the match. Do you think if he wasn't distracted by that, he could have beat Clubber Lang?
No. Because he is so... into, like I said, he's transformed into a different person.
Yeah, which Paulie calls him out.
Yeah. He throws his watch.
Yeah.
You
got cleaned up.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It always sounds weird to say, but like that's what saved Rocky as like a boxer. Is getting the shit kicked out of him. I know Kevin Smith has always talked about The Dark Knight Rises is Rocky 3. The first time Batman goes up, he's this like. He's super
clearly
cocky
outmatched,
and gets the shit kicked out of him. He doesn't have Alfred dying behind him though.
Unfortunately, he doesn't have a training montage set to Pushin' by Frank Stallone.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's what would have saved Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
No, the world's greatest detective just had to realize you punch a man in the mask in the face to disrupt his mask.
Yeah,
but like, we enjoy the Dark Knight Rises. But listen to our commentary. Yeah, but I think that he would have lost either way. Maybe not as quick, because like obviously he's not thinking of fighting. He's
yeah, I
thinking
mean,
of
after
his
the
friend
first
Mick.
round, he's like talking to Paul. He's like, "Oh, I need to check Mick.
Yeah,
Somebody check
but
Mick."
I mean, I think he would have got his ass kicked anyway. Maybe it would have gone a little longer, but he would have lost regardless because he just was so. He's just like, I could beat everyone. I'm.
Well, he goes out, the
thing.
same fighting style, which is to say, not blocking or dodging and just swinging.
Yeah.
And of course, with Clubber Lang, he finally faces a boxer that can hit harder than he can.
Yeah.
And take more than he can.
Yeah, and so then because he's up with the rope-a-dope method,
wears him down.
and then because it's a quick fight when they refight in the end.
Well, both fights are only 3 rounds a pop.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think the first fight only 2 rounds.
I think it's 2 rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, and the
quick.
second one's 3.
Yeah.
The second fight's 3.
Because before that, all the Rocky ones they go the distance. Rocky 1 and 2 they go the 15 rounds.
And 4.
Yeah, and 4 they go 15, which is
and Balboa.
Balboa. Yeah, Balboa. But then it was like 12 though, because they don't do the full 15
They don't
anymore.
do 15 anymore. Especially not for exhibition.
Did you ever
bouts.
see the alternate ending of Rocky Balboa where he wins?
Where he wins,
and it's like
and it's
so
like,
pointless.
What's the point?
Like there's no point of that. Like I mean, I guess I understand why they filmed it. Like, hey, let's just do it.
Just fuck.
We got him here.
Yeah.
But it makes zero sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rocky 3 is really, really good. It's just, I don't know. When I was a kid, I would watch it. I hated how he was like, and I guess it's the point, but also it's like how he's like all of a sudden smarter too. But like he's like a completely different guy.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because that's what
Yeah.
Paulie calls him out on. That's why he loses to Clubber Lang.
Yeah. It's not like they don't know that. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah.
But it's just that, like, I remember he's like well spoken all of a sudden now, and I'm like, but
Yeah.
he's like,
well, he's able to do like American Express commercials and stuff.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, but before he was like he once he won the belt, he like regained brain cells. Like,
Yeah.
I guess that's how it works.
Well, he also becomes like a millionaire, and that always helps.
Yeah, that does help too. He
Money helps everything.
Money helps, yeah,
guys.
because then he loses money and becomes like the super lovable, like dumb Rocky again.
Yeah, only
And now,
in Rocky 5 because he literally loses brain cells.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
Rocky
well,
5.
it starts with the shot of him like in the shower, like
Yeah.
after the 15 round fight where he's just like,
Tony, call Adrian.
you're fucked up. He's so fucked up in that movie. And then like any good movie, they kind of forget it exists for Balboa and kind of bring him back to more. Because in 5 he's like serious problems.
Yeah.
Like he's like gonna die if he's like hit. You know what I mean?
They're like, if you go in the original draft for Rocky 5, he dies after the street fight with Tommy Gunn.
Yeah. And thank God he didn't, because Balboa was a fantastic way to end the Rocky saga. Now, granted, we're going to see what happens in Creed.
Yes, the spin-off.
And it's granted, it's not a movie about Rocky
With Michael B. Jordan, the future Human Torch.
That's right. Miles Teller was talking about how he really wants to have the X-Men team up with.
He
Fantastic
really wants
Four.
to meet Wolverine. How cool would it be if 20th Century Fox loaned out Wolverine like Sony loaned out Spider-Man? Just Wolverine.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So we could have even more Wolverine movies.
Yeah, let's be honest though, like out of the original 3 X-Men films, it's really Hugh Jackman.
Oh yeah, it's the Hugh Jackman show.
Alan Cumming to a lesser extent in 2.
And Patrick Stewart.
Sure,
you have a fairly solid group of people.
Apparently the 3rd solo Wolverine film is like buddy cop Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman.
What?
That's what they're saying. They team up to like fight crime.
Okay,
Take a bite out of crime.
I don't know. It's just unfortunate that the Wolverine movies are.
I honestly think
Not skewed.
I think they're weaker than X. Everyone's like X-Men 3 sucks. I'm like, well, it's not as good as 1 and 2, but have you seen?
If I had to, I would watch X-Men
Wolverine?
3.
Yeah. Everyone was like, the Wolverines are return to form, and it's like, yeah, you know how you're probably the same person that loves Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again,
Someone's favorite X-Men movie.
yeah. The Wolverine, the beginning of the Wolverine's pretty solid.
Yeah, up until after the Bullet Train fight, the entire movie goes literally and figuratively goes off the rails.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weak. It's weakness. But someone's favorite Wolverine movie. Someone's favorite. I mean, you're screwed.
Someone's
Either
favorite X-Men movie.
Yeah. Someone's favorite Hugh Jackman movie.
Not Kate and
Do you
Leopold.
have a favorite? Do you have a favorite Hugh Jackman movie?
Not Kate and Leopold.
Is it Kate and Leopold?
Time traveling
Is it?
Austrian Hugh Jackman travels present day and hooks up with Meg Ryan. Probably not. Probably not Swordfish either.
Yeah. You know what movie Chappie got compared to in terms of like the critics weren't huge fans of it, but like people had it get arousing and people liked it. And
Short
had fun?
Circuit.
No, Real Steel. Not in terms of plot,
Oh,
but like
yeah.
And here it is, folks. I rented Real Steel like a couple months ago, and that movie, some glassy-eyed, misty-eyed moments in that movie, because it's like this father-son, like, disgraced boxer getting this like down-and-out model robot. This is so stupid, but this down-and-out robot to fight again. And like, there's a great moment in the end where the little robot that could is like beating the big bad robot, and the kid is like, doesn't really care about the dad. They have this estranged relationship, and he looks at his robot that he picked, like, is doing, kicking ass, and he looks over at his dad, and his dad is like, controlling the robot how to fight, and the kid
motions,
and the kid sees this like this life breathed back into the dad, and it's this great like father son, almost not Field of Dreams, but like Field of Dreams-esque moment. And I was like, hey, that's a fun family movie.
I'm not saying that I get choked up watching Tron Legacy, but I get choked up watching.
I get
Tron
choked
Legacy.
up watching Tron Legacy for like. But here's the thing: I get choked up at a part I bet nobody else on the planet.
I
gets
know what
choked
part
up.
you get choked up during Tron
And
Legacy.
it's so weird, the I fight for the users, and I was like, I don't know why, but when I watched it the first time, I was like, oh god damn, like it hit me deep, and I'm not a robot.
It hits you. It hits you where you live.
I know, maybe I am a robot because I love Chappie and Real Steel.
He's not a robot. He's
Well, I know, but the
he's
idea
something.
of like fighting for the
program.
users, yeah, not a sentient whatever like consciousness.
Yeah.
I am Tron, but yeah, that for some reason when he said that line, I was just like watching it because of the Daft Punk. The main reason I got it is because Daft Punk did the soundtrack, and they're in it for like 2 seconds. That's seriously the main reason I bought it, and that line happened, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
For me, it's like when like Jeff Bridges is talking to Clue, like kind of because the entire thing, like you've got the father-son dynamic with Garrett Hedlund's character Sam and Flynn, and then you've got the kind of like the evil son in the form of Clue and his relationship with Flynn. And that last scene where they're before Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde, Cora or whatever, transport back to the real world. And he's just like, he's like, Clue's like facing me. He's like, I did everything you asked, and it still wasn't good. Like, I made it perfect. And he's like, you don't get it. Perfection exists all around us. We can never have it, and yet it exists at the same time. And I'm sitting there. I'm just like, you're right. You're right.
And I'm still crushed over the I fight for the users line.
Yeah. And then but he's okay because he falls in the water
right.
and he lights back up.
And Tron 3 was announced that they're doing Tron 3.
Yeah, I'm sure imaginary friend Josh is over the moon over that.
Some Tron 3.
I feel like we'll probably be revisiting that concept in Tron in general, and maybe in 7 days' time.
Possibly.
Possibly.
We'll see.
But to go,
I don't think we will. I don't believe it.
I want to believe. See, I can make that reference too.
I believe in Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
I can make that reference.
I believe in Harvey Dent.
I don't. He turns into fucking Two-Face.
That's why, because he's Two-Face.
He's a two-faced politician.
Yeah.
I'm all about Two-Face.
Say it. Two-Face.
What's fair?
Yeah.
When he gut shoots Batman in
Batman.
the gun. He's like, ugh.
Yeah. You got me.
Yeah.
Right in the armor.
Yeah. But so St. Patrick's Day 2009.
Yes.
So I to take it all.
It's got to become like a thing, like a trademark of us, just to go off on a tangent.
Well, I don't remember how we went from St. Patrick's Day 2009 to Rocky 3. Oh, because you said my body was Clubber Lang. That's right.
So weird.
20 minutes ago.
My body is a wonderland.
Yeah,
and it's
my
that
body is Clubber Lang.
Use my hands. Yeah. I'm not a fan of John Mayer.
Me neither.
Chris, any feelings on the John Mayer?
Not really.
Okay.
All right.
Just-
Next topic.
He just exists.
Yeah.
But
Although is he dating or dated like like one of your celebrity crushes, one of the all-timers?
okay, all right. Okay, so maybe one of my big celebrity crushes is Katy Perry, and
That's nothing to be ashamed of.
maybe I can like sing all of her singles, and maybe I've seen her in concert, and maybe I've watched a GIF of her getting slimed at the Nickelodeon
Okay, maybe we
Kids'
should.
Choice
All right,
Awards.
man. Back to the.
It's all right. One of my celebrity crushes is dating Josh Groban, so that
Oh
kinda
yeah, Kat
evens out.
Dennings. Yeah. Maybe I've seen Katy Perry's cut appearance on Sesame Street. Maybe that happened. Maybe I've seen both Smurfs movies unironically. Just putting that out there. Anyway,
So St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I was just looking for you to agree that she was your celebrity crush. That was it.
Maybe
Yeah.
she is.
and the answer to your question is yes, they are.
Okay, fantastic.
But not fantastic. Well, good for them. Good for them. The so 30 minutes. I've consumed 5 Irish car bombs within a 30-minute period.
Uh-huh.
And it all kind of hits at once.
Oh, yes.
Like I stand up to like use the bathroom as I am wont to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they all kind of like, once I stand up and get that blood flowing, it's all like, time to fuck yourself.
Yeah,
and
time to bang my head against the table.
yeah, didn't get to that time. Whew. And I was like, oh, guys, I can't do this anymore. And I like cash out. And one of my roommates throws down a $5 and is like, another one for this guy. And not wanting to appear discourteous, of course, I drank it.
Mm-hmm.
I managed to somehow get to the elevator to get to my apartment 3 floors above this bar. I somehow managed to get to my bathroom in my apartment. I somehow don't leave said bathroom for about 6 hours. And then and then I
Moonraker.
Well, have we ever explained that story?
I think we have. We must have. We have?
We've talked about.
I don't recognize.
Oh, well, then
it,
we'll
if
get
that's
to it.
any-
We'll get
Yeah,
to it. All right, because then me just shouting Moonraker makes no sense.
Yeah. This is going to be the Sam inebriated story week, I guess. Also, check out the Mercenary Sea, Reyn, and I Love Trouble by
Yes.
Kel Symons.
Yes.
And drink responsibly.
Yeah, drink responsibly. Those are the big messages from this week. Apparently, I'm hungover for the next 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Garrett, who's living with me at the time, we go to he's like, hey, I'm going to Walmart, so don't die. And I was like, hey, could I come with you? Because I haven't been anywhere in like 48 hours, and I need to get some fresh air. And there has to be some Walmart security footage from like the Yorktown Walmart of me like about 10 paces behind him with my head down, just like kind of like shuffling, like unable.
The shunned child.
Well, like so hungover, I can't lift my feet off the ground, so I'm like literally shuffling behind
Like a
him.
penguin.
Yeah. So that was St. Patrick's Day 2009.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
The Moonraker references
Mm.
my 27th birthday.
Yes.
Our 27th birthday,
yeah.
since Jake and I are born the exact same day.
Same day.
And often celebrate their birthdays together.
At least 2 years. in a row.
2 years in a row. I don't see why we make it
Yeah.
3. But yeah, the first year we went to the Old Shebeen, and we had like a kind of a section
Reserve table,
and we all get there and start drinking, and everyone there really knows Sam. Obviously,
Everyone there wants to buy me drinks.
and so and luckily they didn't no one really knew it was my birthday because I was not trying to get fucking shitty that time. I made up for it this past year,
which we have talked about.
And so we're having a couple drinks here and there, and Sam is getting hammered. So much so that at one point he smacks his head against the table on purpose, like bam, and then looks up with this look on his face of like a clown, like a psycho clown, and it's just going. That's
like
just like
Pennywise and It.
yes. And starts laughing like that John Lennon laugh in Hey Bulldog, where he's like laughs like, aha.
Oh, the scale.
Yeah, the scale, yeah. And I remember looking at our buddy Austin and looking at Sam, and I was like, Jesus, God. Like, I haven't seen this. And I remember like we were at the table, and your chair kept going back farther and farther and farther because you were just like, very loud and movements, and you're getting it's just his face like, fuck you, like, just like going out of your mind. And we all kind of made the kind of like came to the rationale like we need to get Sam out of here. And I was
really. I mean, the rationale should have been maybe stop buying this guy drinks.
Yeah, I don't know who the douchers were who kept buying him drinks, but they were there aplenty. And like David Carter was there, and Garrett.
Sure, yeah.
And
Can't
so
spell douche without David Carter.
and so well, no,
there's a D and a C in there.
yeah, well, he was the guy. He was the guy who both, to his credit,
Yeah.
both years really got his act together to get us out of there.
He was the one who
Now,
kind of rallied.
the first year it was fairly simple because I was not on the same level as Sam. The second year was difficult because Sam and I were gone.
Yeah.
And
Mainly thanks to Josh again.
yeah, so we get out of there and we're leaving, and Sam's like, I need McDonald's chicken nuggets.
I really want a chicken nugget.
So we stopped to get chicken nuggets. And on the way there, Garrett and I got in a fight about Batman villains. And I don't know how, and Garrett was like, who's your favorite Batman villain? And I was like, Bane. And he was like, I was like, who's yours? And he was like, Ra's al Ghul. And I was like, oh, please. Bane is the best because, like, he found out his identity. And I was like, just slurring. Like, I was slurring, like, kind of like the Max Landis, like, just slurring the plot to Nightfall. you know? And in my head, it made
The
perfect
drunk
sense.
Landis,
Yeah,
yeah.
it made perfect sense, but I wasn't actually saying anything. It was basically going, but he found out his identity. And then he goes, and Garrett was like, whatever, he found out his identity too. And I was like, how many times has he broken his back? And he was like, none. He was like, none, fuck you. And I was like, fuck you, you know? So we're in the back seat, like, fighting. We get to the house, and Sam has, like, maybe 3 chicken nuggets. And bought, like, a 20-pack.
You guys got like 2 20-packs.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Because I remember the boxes were left. I come downstairs hungover, not unlike St. Patrick's Day, shuffling downstairs, and I see these boxes of McDonald's chicken nuggets, and I was like, "Oh, cool!" Because greasy food's the best thing for a hangover. And both boxes were empty.
Yeah, someone went to town on those. So we get back because our plan originally was to get back and
Probably John.
Yeah, play some video. Yeah, probably play some video games and watch Moonraker. And so Sam immediately detours to the bathroom.
Well, I'm like, gentlemen.
Oh yeah, yes. He's like, and I can't
remember this.
He's so like loopy, and all of a sudden we get in the house, and he just kind of straightens up and he goes, "Gentlemen, something along the lines of have a lovely night. I'm going to excuse myself to the bathroom to vomit my brains out," and like leaves. And so, all right, cool. And we're all like pretty tipsy. So we're gonna have playing video games, and Garrett's like fucking Rain Man with that stuff, and just obliterating everybody. And after a while, I think it was either David or Garrett was like, "Hey, so let's go like take turns checking on Sam." So we go and we keep checking on him. And the funniest thing, it was my turn to go, and I go and I knock on the door, and there's because he hasn't moved. I know we've all been there. Like what's going on in that bathroom? And I knock on the door, and he goes, "Hey, what's up, Jake?" Like this kind of like,
like how I pick up the phone.
Yeah, like putting on a face where you obviously don't have you obviously like a second before had your face in the toilet vomiting, but you put on this like, "Hey, what's up, man?" I'm like, "You good?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm cool, man, cool." I'm like, "All right, that check that one off. He's good." So we go back, and then
it's like when you have to check the bathroom like at a job.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like,
yeah,
cool.
Like, all right, 3:15, still alive.
Yeah, done by Jake Bozick.
Yeah. Time, military time, so it's like 1500. Check. And so it gets to the point when we're all passed out. Like whoever was there left. John, for some reason, takes the small couch, and John's a very tall man, and I get the big couch, and I'm a much smaller man than John. I don't know how that worked out.
Yeah, John's like 6'2".
Yeah, I looked over, and he's like crumpled up.
Knowing John, like he probably just crumpled himself.
That's what he did.
He does that a lot. Like
that's what he did.
I've just like even at his own house, I've seen him get into the small chair and just turns into like Samus, just turning into the little ball.
Good reference there.
Boom.
And so
I played Super Smash Brothers.
We're all passed out, and Moonraker is on, and
how did you guys reach the conclusion that it was like Moonraker?
Well, yeah, we kind of all got to a point when like Garrett was just killing everybody, and we're like, let's watch Moonraker now. This isn't fun anymore, because he's just like so good, and so we put on Moonraker, and I was like already like falling asleep. Like I stayed awake for like that great opening scene of like Jaws and Bond jumping out of the plane with the parachute and fighting over it, and I pretty much remember like in and out of like passing out and going to sleep, and I hear the door open to where Sam was, and I was like, oh. And we kind of all like, I kind of look over, and like the door's open, but I don't hear anything, so I just kind of go back and have my eyes closed. And Moonraker, when you are like coming down from like being fairly tipsy, it's a fucking loud. It's like the loudest movie in the world for some reason. Like it was just so loud. We didn't even have it that loud. And I was like, fuck this movie. It's so loud. Like guys falling on pianos and like shit. And so it was that scene, I think, around the time where, play it again, Sam, whatever, and he falls on the piano. Yeah. Sam.
Where the guy, like, every time he's about to swing, he screams.
The ninja, it was that scene. I was like, oh,
worst
God.
ninja
I was like,
ever.
Jesus, God. And so Sam starts to walk, and he goes, Moonraker. And then he just walks up the stairs, and that was it. Like, vanished like a fart in the wind. And, the next night and the next morning it was all good. We'd ordered like a massive pizza, I think, the next morning.
Papa John's, which was almost.
And I think the funny thing is we finished watching Moonraker. I think we actually started it again, and then it was on like TV like the next day or something. But that was the first birthday. It was pretty fun. But so that's a really long way of saying now you can go back and listen to me go Moonraker, and now it all makes sense. So there you go.
That's the root of all that.
That's the root of evil.
Yeah.
Root of all evil.
Do you have any good drinking stories, Chris? Do you have any bad drinking stories?
You ever seen a grown man? No, unfortunately, like I've never been really one to go to town drinking. The closest thing to like a good drinking story I have would be the first time that I ever got drunk, which was about a week before my 21st birthday. I was hanging out with our friend Dave, the old karaoke DJ, and Mike and Mike's at the time girlfriend Jen, and we were all we were in a hotel room together, and they had brought a whole bunch of booze with them. We were spending the weekend out at UVA, I think, or Tech, one of those colleges, in Central / Southern Virginia.
Yeah,
and we were all hanging out, and like I said, this is really the first time that I had really drank, because drinking had no real interest to me prior to that. So I don't know how much to drink, and Dave and Mike are notorious for doing their best to get other people drunk. So they just, and themselves. So they're just pouring alcohol in. So I just, at one point, I'm stuck laying down on the bed, and I just can't get up at all. And I was eating chips, and one had fallen on my chest, and it just stayed there for 20 minutes. And everyone's oh my God, Chris, you got a chip. And I'm like, I know, but I don't care, and then Dave and Mike had to carry me to the bathroom to go pee, which is quite the feat, as anyone who knows me.
Was it more of a drag where they got you each?
No, it was more of a when you if someone's got a broken leg and you just kind of wrap your arm around their shoulders,
kind of
and help
crutches,
them.
Yeah,
exactly. I was using both of them as a crutch, but it's just an impressive feat, seeing as how I'm, even though Dave's kind of a big guy, I'm still bigger than both of them combined.
You're what, 6'7"?
8.
6'8".
Yeah, and a whole lot of pounds.
And
but so unfortunately, that's the best drinking story that I have, and then it just kind of teeters out from there. We just all kind of went to bed, and Dave doesn't remember throwing up in the middle of the night because we had thrown away the trash bag. He had one of those ice buckets lined with a plastic bag, and he
specifically for vomiting.
Yes, yeah. He took it because he knew he was going to vomit, and just into it. And
ingenious.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very clever drunk. But he vomited, and we're like, Dave, you okay? Mid vomit, he comes up and he's like, I'm puking, and then just right back into it. And then we did the nice thing by throwing away the bag. One, because it's just nice to do. Two, we didn't want the hotel stinking up.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, he wakes up and we tell him, and he's like, no, I didn't. Look, see, it's empty. It's like, well, yeah, because we threw it away. But yeah, no, unfortunately, that's the most entertaining it gets with me in drinking stories. So sorry, listeners.
Oh man, lordy. But yeah, St. Patrick's Day. I've never, from then on, it's really been just kind of staying at home and watching The Quiet Man. Yeah,
The Quiet Man, huh?
Well, it's a John Wayne. John Ford directed it. He goes to he's a boxer that accidentally kills somebody in the ring, quits boxing and retires to Ireland, where he gets into bare knuckle fist fights, not unlike Every Which Way But Loose, but good.
But good, yeah.
Yeah, no orangutans either.
Damn.
My friend Mary has a tradition of watching Gangs of New York on every St. Patrick's Day.
Listening to lots of U2. They do the theme to that film.
Mm-hmm.
Then, at least that much U2.
Just The Hands That Built America. It's the only one. You guys got a lot of live bands coming up this... and I've always wanted to see Dropkick Murphys and Flogging Molly.
I got to go to the Warped Tour where they were both playing. It was so good because they played back-to-back. And the way... I don't know if Warped Tour still does this, but the way that they did it that year was that they had... Their main stage was actually 2 stages. So they could have one band setting up while the other band is playing. So it literally was back-to-back. As soon as the distortion had faded out from Flogging Molly, Dropkick Murphys kicked in. It was almost like they were just one set, and it was so good. You just basically had to turn your head a fucking tennis match.
They both put on a good show.
Oh, so good. That was the highlight of that year. I don't even remember who else played that year, but I remember that, and I remember it's in the parking lot, which at the time
Was this back when they had it at
Jiffy Lube Live?
Jiffy Lube
or,
Live.
No, yeah. Nissan Pavilion is what it used
yeah.
to be called. So it was
Jiffy
Nissan.
Lube.
Yeah, it was Nissan Pavilion at the time, and it was in the parking lot because the main stage at Nissan Pavilion isn't very festival-y. You know, it's you can go for a concert, but not for a festival. So they put it on in the parking lot, which was all like gravel, which is a terrible idea because, like, especially with bands like Flogging Molly and Dropkick Murphys that get people moving and like moshing around and stuff like that, you just see dust cloud in the air and then people falling and cutting themselves asunder. I don't know if that's a real term, but
Asunder is a term.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, like cutting yourselves asunder. I don't know if that's,
I know you can be torn asunder.
Well, then they were torn asunder by gravel.
Oh man, that kind of reminds
They
me.
were
of,
drawn and quartered.
yeah, like Gibson at the end of Braveheart.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yelling freedom while dancing to Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah, as their genitals get annihilated.
I mean, that's what happens to me every time I listen to Dropkick Murphys.
You know, I've never actually been to a Warped Tour. Not a single.
No.
Not a single time.
I've been to at least 2.
Yeah.
They were pretty good. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up with their listings, but I mean, if they kept steady with like their caliber of bands, you know, it's a good show.
Yeah,
It's a good festival.
Yeah, all day. Yeah, I went to their. They have a winter one called Taste of Chaos. At least they did. I don't know if they do anymore. And I went to the first one of those, and that's the first time I saw My Chemical Romance. I saw Kill Switch Engage. I saw Used. There's an article there. I saw Senses Fail. Yeah, it was all right. Yeah. You ever been to Warped Tour, Jake?
I have not.
Ever been to Taste of Chaos?
Nope.
Ever been to HF Festival?
You just saw My Chemical Romance at Camden, New Jersey?
Camden, New Jersey. We drove up there from Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, and it was
Camden's
awesome.
one of the rougher parts of the Garden State, if I recall.
But it was technically a homecoming show because the My Chemical Romance, the Way brothers are from Jersey, so it's pretty cool. I feel like they put a little extra oomph in that show because they were still touring the Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge tour. You know, they had that was still the album. I mean, that was such a massive album for them. They were still touring that. And we were in the last row, and it was great. It was a really fun show. Did a couple cool Misfits covers, and I think Alkaline Trio opened for them, which I had never been super familiar with. I remember I checked out some of their music beforehand to get a little bit kind of an idea what I was getting into. But My Chemical Romance was a lot of fun. It was really cool. Yeah, I never was big on festivals of any kind with music. And most of those bands that played at those festivals I was never super into.
It's like I've said in previous podcasts in relation to like Firefly, it is like an endurance test.
Yeah.
Especially like kind of like Warped Tour where like lots of dust is being kicked up on those hot days and you're blowing your nose and it's just coming like black and it's just like this is in my lungs. But I don't know. I think it's something that everybody should, if they're up for it, should try at least once. I mean, while they got the energy for it. Well, I think this has been a good installment of catching it.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
What do you wish to achieve, Mark?
I want to be the best. I want to win.
You can
Good.
You can
Good. Although again,
you can call me Golden Eagle.
again, I think that
Or just Eagle.
the way it's cut in the trailer makes it seem weird, with like the heavy breathing and the good, which is like when you see the movie, like I think I mentioned the last time, nothing like that, but it's still a fucking weird movie.
Foxcatcher, yeah.
Foxcatcher.
Don't get caught up in the
Foxcatcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get him, Mark Schultz. Get him. Pin him. Yeah.
But yeah,
Points.
God, that game sucked so hard. Crossfire, I mean. I'm sure Foxcatcher sucks too.
I'd watch Chappie over Foxcatcher. That's for damn sure.
There you go. That in itself.
Would you
speaks-
watch,
Well, I remember
would you
you-
watch Turtles over Foxcatcher?
No. I remember you guys summed it up perfectly. Probably the real reason I love Chappie was because they played the Mad Max trailer beforehand, and I got super excited again.
There you go.
Because that is a fucking beast of a trailer to see on the big screen.
Chase it down with Chappie afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been a good installment. Thank you again, Kel Symons, for swinging by and coming
Absolutely.
in for an interview. You were great to have, and we're digging your work. And again, we can't recommend it enough. Reyn, issue 3, out in comic book stores now, out on Comixology now. Again, the first 2 issues are right there too. Mercenary Sea, first volume is out in comic book stores, bookstores, in Comixology. And again, at the time of recording, that first issue is free to download. I Love Trouble, his first work. Great little book about a grifter in New Orleans that learns how to teleport and gets in trouble with a mob. Check that out. So, yeah, definitely check all 3 of those books out.
Check out the Mad Max trailer.
Always.
Go see Chappie. You'll knock 2 birds out with 1 stone. You'll see the trailer and Chappie.
Give Chappie a fair shake.
Yeah.
Thank you, Image Comics, for setting up this interview.
Absolutely.
We'll be back next week, hopefully with less alcohol in our stories, but we might have another person.
Possibly.
Quite possibly.
Who
I still don't believe it.
I want to believe.
Yeah.
This has been an installment of Catching Up with Chris, Jake, and Sam. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Chappie.
Your consciousness?
I'm alive.
I am the captain now.
And yeah, that's right. Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.